Well, hello and welcome. A brand new podcast for you Formula One lovers out there. It is the Pit Talk. It's powered by Ethara, and it's myself, Chris McHardy, joined by a man who's been there, seen it, done it. He's got the overalls, he's got the T-shirts. Former Minardi, former Red Bull driver. It's Robert Doornbos.
What an introduction, Chris. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you put it again?
Exactly. I'll say it again. Minardi, Red Bull.
And how did you get here? That's the most important question for our viewers and our listeners. You don't drive.
I don't drive.
You don't drive.
That is the first admission on the podcast. I've got a man who raced 11 times in F1.
Yes.
IndyCar,
Rookie of the Year.
A1.
One of you.
Every other imaginable motorsport.
I truly enjoyed racing single-seaters, you could say. Yeah.
And that's it. He's done it. I have not. I got here by Uber today. I kid you not. And it's a great introduction to the podcast. I'm 38 years of age, Robert. And as you well know, I don't drive.
But before the end of the season of the podcast, you will be on track with me.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. I will bid to learn how to drive between now and the end of the
F1 season.
I've got a present for you.
Already? A license?
That is my provisional license.
No.
For when I was 17.
With a big L on it.
Look at the state of it. I'll show that as well to our viewers. It's a shocker. Right?
Yeah, we need to update this one,
I've
Chris.
improved.
We need to update.
I'll go better with age. Right, listen, for anyone that's tuning into the podcast for the first time, Robert, we know there are many great F1 podcasts out there.
Of course.
What makes this so different?
I think it's different. I mean, you're a respected journalist. You know the sport. You love sport. You have passion for the sport. I think that's important. I've been inside the car, inside the cockpit for the past 20 years, very closely involved with the teams and the drivers, and also in other categories, but F1 in particular. And I just know that there's a lot more to learn and to share about Formula One than what we're getting or receiving now or reading now. And
essentially, you know what you're talking about. That's what it boils down to.
Yes. And I think we can help each other and especially the audience to educate also the people here in the Middle East about Formula One. There's so much more about the sport that makes it interesting.
And we know this sport, it's always been glitzy, it's always been glamorous.
Yeah.
The Drive to Survive Netflix series
helped.
It's taken the sport into a whole new kind of stratosphere. My mum now is a bigger fan than she ever has been. Everyone seems to be a bigger fan because now the personalities of you guys, the drivers, the team principals, it's on our television.
True. Back in the days when Bernie Ecclestone was owning the sport still, and when I was racing in Formula One, it was very close. Everything happened on the circuit. You had to be there or not. You snooze, you lose. You're not there, you don't know what's going on. Since the Liberty Global takeover, it opened up social media. Obviously, Netflix, really a big game changer. And the whole sport in itself is growing in many regions around the globe, and particularly here in the UAE.
So we're going to be a lot of analysis, a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, and that contact book of yours.
Yeah.
It's a big one, Robert.
It's a big one. We're gonna
that trusty iPhone. You are, and let's just get something. Tell you what, let's start. Robert Doornbos, 3 things that we need to know about you.
Well, passion for racing, I think that's clear. A family man, Father's Day yesterday.
Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Happy Father's Day to everybody, proud family man. And happy to learn more about Formula One and to share more about Formula One. It's
okay, here's a question. Who's your best friend in F1?
Best friend in Formula One now, I would say David Coulthard.
He's in the phone?
He's in the phone.
You swap WhatsApps?
Yeah.
Okay, David, if you're watching or listening, you're guest number 1. Who's the biggest name in your phone book?
Biggest name, probably Lewis Hamilton.
Call Lewis
For me, that's a big name. Yeah. I mean, he's a 7-time world champion. I know he's not having the time of his life at Ferrari. I mean, this is something he imagined differently. But don't forget, he's a 7-time world champion. In Canadian Grand Prix yesterday, he won it 7 times. So many records already broken by this guy. I mean, this is a legend in the sport, one of the all-time greats.
So on that basis, and we'll get to the Canadian Grand Prix, there's an awful lot for us to unpack from what we witnessed in race 10 of this 2025 F1 season. Do you subscribe to the view that form is temporary, class is permanent? Lewis Hamilton, in your opinion, is not a busted flush?
I mean, age will matter also in this sport. I mean, you can work your ass off like Cristiano Ronaldo does in football, in soccer. In the NBA, we have LeBron James, who's also 40 plus, who's working his ass off. You know, you have to work harder. But the raw talent is there. Lewis won his first race here in Canada in 2007. We're now in 2025, and he's still in the sport. And no, he's not competing for the wins at the moment, but that might change in 2026. When Ferrari gives him the car and the tools to do so. You won't lose it. Everybody says, does he lose his mojo? No, but he can lose a little bit of motivation, and he has to find the right people around him to perform at the highest level.
We're going to be debating. Yeah. Lewis will debate Max. Of course, this is the first of many for the Pit Talk, powered by Ethara, lest we forget. Let me ask you, before we head on to looking back on the Canadian Grand Prix, what's the biggest misconception that we, the media, the public, have of Formula One drivers? That you're all party animals?
Well, we do need to unwind sometimes, Chris. That's a plus. There's not a lot of footage of that, actually, but
thankfully
that's in the mind. That's it. Now, what people sometimes forget, and I think there's not a sport on the planet where 2 minutes before you have to jump in the car and perform at the highest level, you're still talking to the media. Have you ever been on the grid? Have you ever?
I have been on the grid.
Had the buzz of the sponsors, team bosses, media, everybody. Martin Brundle. I mean, you have to be a cool guy to keep your composure, and then when you jump into the car 2 minutes later, put on the helmet, and you have to be an animal. So that is not many sports and athletes that can handle that.
And there are different schools of thought. Some go blinkers on. Yeah. Some are in the zone. There are others, though, and perhaps give us one. Literally can be doing whatever. Next second, 200 miles an hour.
Max is like that. He has to talk to the media, but for him it would have been perfect if he just walked straight from his motorhome to the car. I was in Jeddah this year and spoke to Mark Webber, also a good friend, and from my Red Bull days. He's the manager of our current World Championship leader, Oscar Piastri. And I was on the grid, and Oscar wasn't there. Most of the drivers were there. And I said, Mark, where's Oscar? He said, you couldn't believe it. He was watching a soccer match in the motorhome, just flicking through the channels, completely relaxed, while starting on the front row against Max Verstappen in Jeddah. I mean, that's something else.
That's ice in the veins.
That's ice, and that's what we saw yesterday as well. He can perform under pressure without blinking.
It's unbelievable. And he is, in my opinion, and of course people will lean on your opinion far more than they will mine, he is a world champion in waiting, Oscar Piastri. There is no doubt. He is, to our point, he's ice in the veins. Let's get to the Canadian Grand Prix, obviously won by George Russell, 4th win of his career. Yeah. Well done to George, well done to Mercedes.
No contract for next year.
That in itself, we'll get to that. But the big talking point, lightning does strike twice for McLaren. We saw it in 2011, Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button.
Unbelievable.
And then in the small hours over here.
I would say, it's the same spot on the track. How can you imagine doing so? They should leave their signature. But with Button and Hamilton, it was really Button pushing Hamilton into the wall because he was aware that Hamilton was there and already alongside him. Here it was really Lando approaching Oscar and just coming out of the slipstream too late and just driving against the back of him. It's what you would do at your first lesson, You should have.
Probably would.
You would. Yeah. Then we rewind this episode. And he was man enough, we have to say, to admit it straight away on the radio because there are 200 million eyeballs watching him. And it's hard to say that Oscar did a brake test or Oscar, tried to put him in the wall. So a big mistake, expensive mistake. You lose a lot of points in the championship and unnecessary as well. And this is the day you knew that was going to happen. As a team boss, it's the most embarrassing day of the year because you don't want to have your two cars collide.
But it's F1.
It's F1. It's not for a race victory. It's about points. A championship you win not by winning 24 races, no, by being consistent in the points finishes. And when you can, you win a race like Oscar does.
What does it say about Lando, in your opinion?
That he's not that level of Oscar. I think Oscar is really a World Championship driver, many titles in the near future. And then there's a difference between a very good Grand Prix driver who can win races, who's up there, but doesn't have this magical touch. For example, Sebastian Vettel, Coulthard, Webber, Doornbos, great drivers. But then there's Sebastian Vettel, who's always 2-3 tenths faster. And if you add that up during a Grand Prix, and the way he drives, the way he defends Oscar, it's different,
What is that, Robert? Is that tangible?
It's pure talent. I mean, data doesn't lie, right? So you can read your data, you get your data. When I did a shootout with Vettel in the same car in Jerez, I got the data, and he was 3 tenths faster. And you go look at the data, and you're like, Okay, in turn 1, he brakes 2 meters later, but you arrive with 300 kilometers an hour. What is 2 meters at 300 kilometers an hour? It's pure instinct. He goes on the power half a second earlier. It's you add that up over 15 corners, and it's 3/10. But it's 3/10, 70 laps in a row. So if you add that up, then it's like a difference between finishing on the podium or finishing 8th or 9th.
Wow. When you put it like that 2 meters makes all the difference. That's what it is. F1 is about inches.
I mean, qualifying.
Centimeters.
Inches. You can look at the data, you're like, oh, qualifying, I missed out. But it's such a tired championship this year, and the past years as well. I mean, look at the qualifying on Saturday. It was a pole position by George Russell with a medium compound tire. It's crazy. But it shows they understand the tire better than Pirelli does almost.
Yeah.
Because for Pirelli, it looks a bit not great, to be honest. If you bring a soft compound, which is supposed to be the one-lap flyer, the one-lap magical lap, and it's not. It's the medium that works better, performs better.
Mercedes have struggled all year long with managing their tyres, and yet George Russell puts the perfect weekend together.
Perfect lap. That's where it all starts. It's a semi-street circuit, so qualifying on pole helps, but there was also overtaking. We saw that yesterday. But it sets him up for a great victory. Yeah.
Tell me this, with regards to Lando and to Oscar, you're right in saying Lando owned up straight away, said, guys, I take full responsibility, apologise to the team, apologise to Oscar. You ever been in a situation where you and your teammate have come to blows? I'm sure that they didn't come to blows.
Well, there was Formula 2, right? Formula 2 is the big stepping stone to F1. So if people get to know me in the UAE, how do you get to F1? Well, you start in karting, you go to Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2, and if you're lucky enough, you arrive in F1 with the 20 top shots drivers. I was in Formula 2, qualified on the front row in Belgium, at the Belgian Grand Prix, on the Saturday. We race on the Saturday. F1 team bosses were walking along the grid there, always looking for new talent, right? So my teammate was on pole, Antonelli Liuzzi, I was second, and Christian Horner was our team boss. And he walked up to us and he said, guys, this is a very proud moment. Don't let it become an embarrassing one while you knock each other out in turn 1 or in the first lap. I said, no, of course not. Then Then the team boss walked up, Eddie Jordan. And in my mind, Chris, something said, go towards him. Just tell him what you want to tell him. So I walked over, said, Mr. Jordan, my name is Robert. I'm on the front row and I want to become a Formula 1 driver. Right? That's what you say. He looked at me, said, good for you. And he continued walking. I was like, oh, in my mind, that went different. So I never give up. So I walked back to him. I said, no, you don't understand. I don't want to become world champion. Well, I do, but I just want to drive a Formula 1 car one day. Can you help me? And then he was like, okay, this guy is persistent, right? So he told me there was a Spanish bloke 2 years ago, and he won this race with 30-second lead. If you can win the race with 30-second advantage, I get you a test for free at the Jordan Grand Prix team. I was like, okay, sorry, who was the Spanish guy? He said, Fernando Alonso. I was like, ooh, those are big shoes to fill. But
no pressure.
No pressure. Then something happened magical. Spa is a long track, 7 kilometers. I look in the front of me and I see clear skies. I look in my mirrors, I see dark clouds coming in. I say to my engineer, take off the roll bar, soft setup. I think it's going to rain. So
you called it. That's not your race engineer.
No, that's my call. He said, it's your bet. It can go left or right. It's a gamble. I'm not a weatherman. But I was like, okay, I have to do something. Chris, it started raining. I had the race of my life. I won it with 38-second advantage over Liuzzi. Well, first of all, we had a hot moment arriving in turn 1 when I touched Vito Antonio on the inside. And there I saw my team boss, Christian Horner, saying, what did I tell you? So I said, if I crash here, I'm going to walk home. I'm not even going back to the paddock. But it went well. And I won the race after 38 seconds. You know what I did? And when I crossed the finish line, my team was there. I ran straight to the yellow motorhome. And I said, look, Eddie. He said, well done, buddy. And he signed. And 3 weeks later, I was in the plane to China to do my first Formula 1 test. So this is how life can be, right? You have to be blunt and a bit forward.
It's what we're going to be on this
sometimes.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to be blunt at times. What a story that is. And of course, God rest his soul, Eddie Jordan no longer with us.
That's
I mean,
he didn't lose his sense of humor. I think 4 or 5 weeks before he passed away, I saw him in Monaco. And I said, Eddie, how's life? He was always rocking it. Life is good, Bobby. He said, you see that apartment over there? I still live there and your sponsors are still paying for it. So
Just a
he never
character.
lost his sense of humor.
Just
It's such a character.
Very
Great
fortunate to interview Eddie myself.
Oh,
And
yes. Oh.
To the day that he passed on, it blew me away. Obviously, he worked with Michael Schumacher for Jordan.
All the big names.
But when I asked him, it's the obvious question, who's the greatest driver? Without blinking, who do you think he said? He didn't say Michael.
He didn't say Michael.
Still got the interview. I categorise my interviews. I've kept it. Who do you think he said without missing a beat? Because I was surprised.
I was surprised. I would say Michael straight away because it gave him so much,
We've already mentioned him on this pod.
We did?
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton. But he didn't work with Eddie.
He didn't work with him.
Oh, but just in general. Just the greatest
who is
driver.
The greatest driver.
Okay.
And Eddie, without missing a beat. Because I expected him to say Michael Schumacher, Chris.
Yeah, I thought of the drivers he worked with.
And
then you know more about them, right?
Lewis Hamilton. Do you subscribe to that view?
Well, he's one of the all-time greats. I mean, it's a way of looking at it, Chris. I mean, if you see Lewis Hamilton in his debut season, winning races, fighting against Alonso in the same team, that's something. Huh?
Tells you something.
I mean, that tells you something of what's ahead. And it's similar with Oscar Piastri. It's about the growth. So you get into F1, you're good, because otherwise you wouldn't get the opportunity. But then the step up in your second year or the step up in your third year, and that's what the greats are doing. And we're enjoying it.
Yeah, they're not waiting around.
No,
they're
you
getting
have to have
the job
this
done.
line up to the.
Yeah, amazing. We'll get to Lewis and his trials and tribulations. Win for George, as I say, fourth win of his career. It's a big moment, keeping Max Verstappen, who was on that. He was on the charge in the first 5-6 laps, looking to put George under pressure. Fair play to George for holding him back, and then we saw a little incident towards the end under the safety car.
Yeah.
George brakes, Max shoots past him, and they're both on the team
straight
radios.
away on the radio, like football players asking for a yellow card.
That's exactly it.
But that is how the sport, unfortunately, is now.
Childish.
Because the FIA is listening to all the radios before they hand out penalties. They want to make sure they have all the data collected. So it's childish. I don't like this part of the sport. Max knows how to play this game. George knows definitely how to play this game. I mean, it doesn't make him French, especially not in Holland, with what he did yesterday. But it's unfortunately, it's part of the game.
And is it legit? Because I've got a lot of mates who follow the F1 kind of circus, if you will. And a lot of them skeptical about whether the beef between Max and George is real. Is it?
That's real. I mean, you have guys that you don't get on with. You don't need to get on with everybody. You have your own life. You go to the track, they do your racing, and they share a jet sometimes, but he won't share a jet with George. I think he would prefer to book his own.
He's rich enough.
Yeah, he's rich enough. But I think that part is real because George, they had some incidents in Baku and they had some incidents in the past. And I think yesterday was another one of those. But the respect is also there because at the end of the day, the guy is fast. He won the Grand Prix. He beat you to pole position and he won the race. But they're not flying back home.
No, they're not. Kimi Antonelli finishing third, completing what was a great weekend for Mercedes. They've had their trials and tribulations, but at 18 years of age, the third youngest podium finisher ever. There's another young man who I look at, and I'm no expert, I don't bleeding drive, we'll reiterate that again, but I look at him and I think there's a young man with the minerals to be world champion.
The way they prepared him is next level. But to prepare somebody and to invest so much time, effort and money like Toto Wolff did with little Kimi Antonelli, he called him small Kimi, but now Grande Kimi, because, he got the monkey off his back. He's a podium finisher now in F1 and he can spray the champagne, and rightly so. But the way I was in Melbourne and it was a tricky opening race of the season. And the way he handled this car was pure raw talent. It was like watching Ayrton Senna drive a car on the limit, or Max Verstappen in one of his first races, or Vettel.
He was that good.
He was that good straight away that everybody after Melbourne said, okay, if you can handle in such tricky conditions a Formula One car like that on your debut, you're going to be great. So Toto already kept his promise with that. And he needed this podium. We'll get some two bad races.
On this podcast, I promised you that I'm going to keep you on your toes.
Yes.
Here is your first test of this brand new podcast. Third youngest podium finisher of all time. Do you know the two men who were younger than Kimi Antonelli?
Well, it has to be Max.
Correct. He's number one.
He's number one.
Why?
And
Which
I
race?
think Vettel then.
Nope.
No.
Might surprise you, the guy saying number two. Max Verstappen, number one. He won the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix. Didn't just get on the podium.
On his debut, won the race.
Incredible.
Boom. And then the rule actually changed that they say you have to be 18 years of age before entering. But there was another number 2 who was younger.
I'll give you a clue. He's on the grid this year.
He's on the grid. Oh, I should know this.
Counting down to the Formula One Etihad Airways Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, December 4th through to the 7th, 2025. Get your tickets, hospitality experience, and after race concert tickets now. AbuDhabiGP.com.
I don't know.
Lance
Stroll. I wanted to say Lance. Oh, but I thought no. Which race was that?
Third
in
2017 Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan. I had a pole as well. Yeah.
So Max,
Lance, and now Kimi. Well, nice.
So okay, 1 from 2. I'm going to test you across this podcast.
Yeah. Bring it on.
Because serious question: Are you a student of motorsport? Are you someone that does love your facts and figures? That you love the history of the sport?
I love the facts and figures, but I love the stories more. That how it happened. Like for example, when I saw the incident yesterday with Oscar and Lando, straight away I knew this was the same place and spot where it happened with Button and Lewis. And then you had to go back a little bit of what happened. It was a wet race, and he was really pushing him. There was a fierce rivalry between the teammates. So, I like my facts and figures, but it's not like I'm a Wikipedia, Chris.
You're not a woke. I am. That's where I come in. That's where...
See, that's the mix and match. That's why we're here.
This is why we're the perfect teammates. Although you're Max Verstappen, I'm Yuki Tsunoda in all of this. You'll get more of the points.
I wish.
You'll get more of the points. I'm just here to ensure that we stay on track. What did you make of it overall, the race? Because the accusation, again, up until the crash, it was a little bit, dare I say it, processional again.
Tires again. Tires make such a big difference. Temperature rose from Friday when they do the long runs up until Sunday. Difference in temperature. It's warmer, so everybody was like, okay, patient, degradation. What's going to happen with the tires? I can imagine if you're not new to F1, you think, okay, what's going on here? You really have to understand these guys are nursing the tires. They're understanding how they can push or not. At one stage, I think the engineer of Fernando Alonso said, please a little bit more hesitant, exiting turn 6. He's like, are we racing or testing?
Correct.
This is racing. So that's what you want to see. Pirelli, please, up your game in that aspect. Bring even...
As simple as that, Robert. The Pirelli just need to up it.
Well, not up the game is maybe too short to mention. I mean, they've been doing a great job, but they can be too conservative sometimes with tires. And like we have now, you have the soft, the medium, and the hard. In qualifying, you want low fuel, soft tires, and just... knife edge, everybody on the limit, and see who's fastest. Not that you communicate with your engineer, said maybe the medium is faster over one lap. Why? It's a harder compound tire. Yeah. So there's too much knowledge you need to have about the tires to understand the sport.
Yeah, I want to get to Ferrari because, of course, I should have actually stated this at the start of the podcast.
Won it 7 times, Michael Schumacher, the Canadian Grand Prix.
2003
F1.
Michael Schumacher Ferrari car.
With a lovely V10 engine.
Provides the backdrop. Incredible. A big shout out to Millie Miglia Gallery and Cafe here in the heart of Dubai for providing us with a backdrop for the podcast.
It's a proper man cave.
It's a proper man cave.
Yeah.
This place is a work of art.
Yeah, it is.
It's what it is. It's a proper
Be careful
work
that
of
you
art.
don't break your wing.
I've been told, do not touch this bleeding thing. It's worth a fortune.
Yeah.
But Ferrari... they're a long way from the halcyon days of Michael Schumacher. 5th and 6th in Canada for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. We were told that they were coming with a upgraded setup. I mean, for a layman, what the heck does that mean, Robert?
Upgrades, you hear a lot. Upgrade is like what you did. You went to the wind tunnel and you got your hair done. That's an upgrade.
Especially for the pod.
That's an upgrade. There's at least 0.2 of a second. That's an upgrade. So you can have upgrade packages like the floor is very important. More than 65% of the downforce comes from the floor. So sometimes you don't even see it with your eye, but it's built back in the factory. 2,000 people are working there trying to find something within the rules to make the car faster. That's an upgrade. You're waiting for that as a driver. You need it. And a setup is something that the driver does. So you can do that in the simulator or you do it on track together with your engineer. You see, you have a base setup, but you want some more understeer, you want some more oversteer. You're fine-tuning the car.
And how secretive is it between the two drivers in the same team?
Well, there's no, like I said earlier, data never lies. So you have open data books for both teammates. And in the ideal world, teammates are working together to make the car faster. right? But for example, when I raced in Formula 3, there was no data, really good data. And I arrived at a new circuit in England. And I said to my teammate, I said, well, turn 1 looks fun. He said, easy flat, mate. I said, really? I trust him. So I go out, keep the foot down, and I end up in a cornfield 100 meters down the road. So nowadays, if you say it's flat, you look at the data, you say, no, it's a downshift, or it's a lift, or it's a... So data never lie. Data really makes this sport different. These cars are driven by data and built to win. But if you look at the driver's perspective, you can make a difference in during the Grand Prix weekend. Look at Max, how he fine-tunes the car through qualifying to get to Q3 and to do that mega lap.
Now, this will come across as a real strange question. So pardon my ignorance on this, Robert. And this really does tell you I don't drive. But the different in football, for example, a striker, midfielder, defender, different characteristics, different skill sets.
Yeah.
As a driver, are all of you guys different? For example, your setup, you perhaps like a different, I don't know, your downforce might be a little bit different. Whatever the case may be, how are you guys different?
It starts with the seat. So the seat is everything. You have to be comfortable in the car, so it's molded to your body. Then you're sort of stretched down like this, so the pedal's on the height of your chin. This is the position.
I love what you're doing right now. For the sake of the audio podcast, you're in a position where if I tried, my core is not. Try.
Okay, so then
oh my goodness!
Oh, this looks lovely.
I'm too big.
Well, and then there's this thing. I took it with me. This is a Formula 1 steering wheel, 2021 Red Bull after championship winning.
That's legit.
Legit. I got it from Red Bull to share at keynotes and presentations for company sponsors, and even for Ethara when I go to the Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. F1 steering wheels from teammates always look different. Why? Because at 300 kilometers an hour, you have to use 70 functions. Some of them want to have the pit limiter on the left, and the other one wants to have it on the right, or the radio on left and the drink system there. So you can, because when you're doing those speeds, Chris, and you look down to where was this button again, and you look back up again, you're a football field further down the road, and you might miss your braking zone and crash. So these guys know how to use these wheels blindfolded.
So it's the driver who dictates the position of the buttons.
The driver dictates the position. So the layout is the same for both teammates, but the wheel of Yuki looks different than the wheel of Max.
I look at that and I just see PlayStation
next level.
I do. It's next level.
Yeah,
I want to drive with a steering wheel 10-2, Robert, for goodness sake. I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Well, you'll be driving like this at your first driving lesson, probably. No, so to answer your question, yes, there are characteristics between driver setup. For example, the way you push the brake pedal, 160 pounds on the brake pedal. Some of the drivers want to have it super hard, no flex, no travel. And some of them want to have a bit of travel, to have a bit of feel in it. So, that's what you do in the winter testing. You really set up the car. That's what Lewis did at Ferrari in his first couple of tests.
What have you made of Lewis's start to life
at Ferrari?
I expected more, if I'm honest.
The only thing that reminds me is the picture in front of Enzo's house and the F40 in the backdrop and the jacket on. I mean, a great start. The media, the value of the company went up. Everybody loved it, right? But then the performance comes, or the performance doesn't come. The communication with his engineer is terrible. It's like in any marriage, you can have your ups and downs, but there's no up. It was only down. So, it's not what he wants. And Barcelona was terrible for him. Now we arrive here in Canada. He hit, you don't believe it, in lap 13, a groundhog. It cost him half a second per lap on downforce. So that's disappointing, but it explains the big gap to Leclerc, his teammate. But in Monaco, it was really performance gap of 40 seconds that he lost out to Charles Leclerc.
See, I got caught up in the whole story, the whole narrative. You know, I was sat there with buddies thinking, right, this is it.
But what did you think? That he would be the king of the castle at Ferrari straight away? Yeah?
Maybe
or
not.
You were hoping? I hope it
Maybe
will
not
happen.
straight away, but I was adamant that he would win an 8th world title with Ferrari. He'd become the first driver to win
ever
world championships with 3 different teams.
Yeah.
I was convinced of it. Now, less so, I must say. He's looking every...
But they changed everything. How can we get Ferrari to winning ways again? They changed the team principle. They changed the drivers. They changed key staff. What else can you change to get to winning ways? You know, I mean, Ferrari hasn't won a championship
Since Kimi. 2007.
That's a long, long time ago.
Yeah, it's like Manchester.
And even then, it was
football.
not dominant. It was he won it with like 1 point. I mean, a win is a win, but for Formula One, we need Ferrari back winning.
From the outside, and I appreciate you're not in the inner sanctum, but what do you see as the missing piece of Ferrari?
I think when I see them in live in Jeddah, for example, I see a team that speaks half Italian, a bit of French between two drivers and the team boss, or the driver and the team boss. I see a lot of show going on. There's always entertainment. I see Italian mechanics having a smoke in the background and drinking an espresso. It's different. Like in McLaren, at Red Bull and Mercedes, there are all these. There's only one language. It's English. Everybody's super fit in the pit lane, prepping their pit stops. They look sharp, shaved heads and. It's
I love that.
It's different.
That's a technical term.
It's different,
we're
but
ready.
it's more like it's elegant. It's Ferrari because if things go well, they have their chest up, but if things go wrong, they point to each other. I think there's no synergy in the team. They're missing that. In the days of Schumacher, he had a lot of European guys with him. They built a strong core foundation, and then the successes were coming.
Yeah, you're right on that front.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating in F1 right now because, okay, if we take aside their little tete-a-tete in Canada, you've got McLaren, the best team, certainly drivers, Lando and Oscar.
Yeah.
You've got Red Bull, that's, with the greatest respects to Yuki, it's Max, and then it's...
No, it's Max.
It's Max.
Dot.
Right? And then in Ferrari, you've got the greatest, one of the greatest in Lewis. Okay, he's over 40 now. And Charles Leclerc, who is the would-be king.
Yeah.
Ferrari have got a lot of stock into him. So storyline-wise, there's actually a lot to get excited about.
There's a lot going on.
But for whatever reason, just isn't clicking.
No. And you can say, okay, we throw away this season. I'm going to go all in for 2026. But they keep saying that, big rule changes are coming up in 26. It's really an engine championship. You would say Ferrari knows how to build one of the best engines, if not the best. But there's a hybrid component. The battery, are they the best in that? So a lot of question marks still. But I understand the move of Lewis. It's a dream come true, but it might have come too late in his career.
Maybe, just maybe. You touch on 2026. Obviously, we've still got 14 races remaining. We're not yet at the halfway point of 2025. Oscar Piastri's got that 22-point lead now over Lando Norris. When you look ahead to 2026, there's been a lot of chatter around a good buddy of yours, Max. One story last week suggesting that he's done with F1 at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Let's put that to bed. He's not done with it.
He's not done. He might be done with Red Bull. And that story, that fairy tale might come to an end. And then a beautiful, beautiful story it has been. Like you just tapped on, won the first race when he arrived in the team. There's no better way for first introduction to win the race. 4 championships, constructors as well played his role. I mean, he wins it on his own, constructors basically. And he's very valuable for Red Bull. If he would leave, it would be a disaster for big shoes to fill. But I also see him move to another team that can give him the tools to win more championships. And we don't see Red Bull winning another 4 or 5 championships in the next 8 years.
No.
There's another team that's going to do that. And in my opinion, it's going to be Mercedes.
You think Mercedes?
I think Mercedes is going to be up there with the engine development, Chris, they can do is next level. There's a budget cap in F1. You can spend $145 million and it has to fit in everything, apart from driver salaries and top 3 management. In the case of Red Bull, that's a good one because otherwise half the budget will be gone to Max. And Mercedes can spend another 200-300 million on developing engines for their road cars. Ferrari can do the same, but Mercedes if you look at the facts, every time there was a big rule change on the engines-wise, 2014, they killed everybody with a hybrid engine.
That's it. And that's what makes the beef between George and Max so interesting because
George has to probably step aside if Max comes. And George has no contract for next year. He does what he does best. It makes life difficult for Toto as well because the guy is winning races, wins a race now. Is the only Grand Prix winner this year after Oscar, Lando and Max. How long can you keep him on the leash?
What about Aston Martin? Lawrence Stroll spent huge money. He's got the new factory. Adrian Newey.
I want to talk to you about Lance. Okay, I missed out on him that he's the second youngest podium finisher in the history of the sport.
Sorry, Lance.
Sorry for that. We'll get back to that. But what do you think of his attitude this weekend? I mean, it's your home race. The way he talks to the media, like, wrist fixed, and I'm okay. You know, there's no energy. Qualifies 18th, gets a 10-second penalty for driving Gasly into the grass. Why would you do that? And you have your teammate Alonso who beats you 22-0 in qualifying. That's that I know. You didn't know.
That's good.
And gets points. So that's not a sustainable situation. It's not a sustainable situation, even if your dad is team owner.
Yes, he'll be done, I expect. Aston Martin have high expectations.
Yeah, they need to move up.
You don't see Max there. Adrian Newey there as well now.
A big money, big offers. Supposedly $1 billion offer for 4 years. Would you say no?
I would learn to drive.
Before they pronounce it, I would already sign probably.
$1 billion is insane.
But yeah, money is obviously important, but at a certain level, I think then, Mercedes also won't pay him peanuts. So they will also make him a good offer. But then it's about the package. Can you grow with them? I mean, Aston Martin will become a factory Honda engine. Yes, Adrian Newey is there and who can really make a difference in 2026. I mean, the guy is brilliant. This man can draw from a white piece of paper a winning Grand Prix car. Who can do that? He won 18 championships.
You were telling me, actually, during one of our many planning sessions for this podcast, you worked with Adrian.
Yeah.
He came to you one day to ask what? Tell us the story.
Oh, yeah. He wanted to, as a test driver, you feel like a test dummy. And you have to test everything. The life of wings, the flexibility, if they will just destroy at the end of the straight because, there's too much load on them and you end up in the wall. It's like, okay, Robert, thank you. We're not going to use this wing. Up to the next. That's what you do as a test driver. Testing was unlimited back in the days. I did 36,000 kilometers.
You are like a crash test.
I almost felt like a crash test dummy, but I also did tire testing, long days on the track, just mileage. So when I got prepared, my neck only was getting bigger. I was physically the best prepared driver to jump into a race seat because I did so many miles. And there was a day that Adrian said, what do you think of driving with your feet above each other? So to get the aerodynamics more.
So your left foot below your right foot.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's just not doable. But it shows the way he thinks outside of the box, within the rules, but you have to think outside of the box. Well, we tested it and came back into the pit lane and he just wrote something on his notebook. And I said, what are you writing down there? He said, well, I'm going to change something in the car. I said, what is it? It's between the engine and the steering wheel. I said, that's me. I said, yes, so it just shows that he's so intelligent. If he could exchange the driver for a computer, he would also enjoy that,
He is a master.
But then again, he also understated moving to Aston Martin is his dream to work with a guy like Alonso, and he would hope to work in the future with Hamilton, but I don't see that happening anymore.
No, I don't either. So watch this space. Max, if I pushed you now, will not be a Red Bull driver next year. Honest opinion?
No.
Watch
I think it's going to
space.
happen. Why not? Just do something.
Max, if you're watching this, you're invited on. We want to get a chat with you on this podcast as well. I've got to ask, another bloke that you know about, and it's not just about F1, a great story this weekend in the Le Mans 24-hour race.
That's a great story.
Robert Kubica.
Yeah.
Anyone that follows F1 will know the story of Robert. Won a Grand Prix with Sauber back in 2008.
In Canada.
In
Canada.
great.
In 2007, when I was still racing in F1, he was there. He had a massive crash, the biggest crash back then of his career. You remember at the end of the long straight towards the hairpin that his feet were still hanging out. It was terrible for BMW Williams. And then the year after, or BMW Sauber, the year after he raced for the team and he won it in Canada. So super talent. If you ask Lewis Hamilton, who's one of the fastest drivers you raced in karting, he said Kubica straight away. You ask Alonso, Kubica. He was massively talented. I lived together with him in Italy in like a training camp where we prepared for the races. So we grew together to F3, to F1. I remember after the first test we did in Suzuka, we went to each other's hotel room to watch the onboard footage and to listen where he lifted and if I lifted. It's like
is that the game
early days. Yeah, that's the game. Chicken, you lifted, I say, well, my car was shit or I had wind, all the excuses. But he was so talented that he had a great career. And this team behind us, Ferrari, actually wanted to sign him up for the future. He had a passion for Italy. He speaks fluent Italian. He had a passion, obviously. And Ferrari loves just fast drivers in their car. And he had a great future at Ferrari. Then he asked his team at Renault to do a test in a rally car or to do a rally in itself. And I remember he was prepping himself for it in the gym in Viareggio in Italy. And he had a huge accident. The guardrail came into the cockpit, almost tore his arm off. Had to do like 17 surgeries or something. He was recovering in my apartment in Viareggio, and it was just really bad to see because everybody knew it's over. His career is over, and his Formula One career was over. He did make a comeback with Williams, but the problem is he couldn't steer the wheel properly anymore. So there's not a lot of space in an F1 car, but he cannot bend his wrist, so he can hold it on a wheel like this, and it's almost like it doesn't do anything. So you have power steering in F1 as well, and also in sports cars. But there's a little bit more space for him to actually make the turn. So they've done everything they can to, get him back in shape. And now, so many years later, after missing out of a Ferrari contract in Formula One, you win for Ferrari one of the biggest races on the planet, the Triple Crown. You have Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500, and Le Mans, 24 hours, and he wins it. Yeah, I was so happy for him. I sent him a text straight away. Good for you.
That's a movie in itself.
That's a movie. That's definitely a movie. And it's not a factory team. It's AF Corsa. So they were pushing the factory team, and they were always, it's like a support role. And at one stage, Robert came on the radio and said, but it's also my day here to win the race. I have the pace. And I think then they made a mistake, and he passed them, and he won the race. Yeah, great. Right. Good for him.
I'm going to make a request of you. Let's get Robert on this podcast.
We have to.
He would be brilliant.
We have to. Okay.
He'd be really good. Yeah. That's a bit of homework I'm going to set you, not for next week, not for the next couple of weeks. We'll let this podcast get up and running, but I would love to get Robert Kubica.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Because his story is a staggering one.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
It is.
In terms of, I'm conscious that we're obviously starting this podcast 10 races in to the season, Robert. Give us your kind of overview thus far. McLaren will win the Constructors' Championship. But there's no doubt.
No doubt they will win the Constructors. For the drivers, there's maybe a small doubt that Oscar might lose it after so many races. But if you see him, he won 4 out of the first 9 races.
He looks to me as if...
it's hard to imagine that he won't win it. But then again, look at what happened yesterday. Max really got a big chop in the points.
Yeah, 43 points now, Max.
Yeah. So... stranger things have happened in Formula One. So never calculated Max won't win it, but McLaren is definitely the team to beat on all types of circuit, because we could see where the Mercedes come from. Are they now the fastest team with 2 cars on the podium? No, next weekend in Austria, they won't have 2 cars on the podium. They'll be competitive, but it will be different again. And that's the fun about Formula One, the characteristics. You have street circuits, slow road courses, fast road courses, and then you have to find a balance. You cannot build a car that's fast on all of them. You have to...
What's your own preference, street circuit or track?
The real high downforce F1 circuits are more fun, because then the car really goes up to where it's built for, does what it's built for. Planted, 5G on the neck, cornering speeds at 200 miles an hour. That's what you want in a Formula One car. And sometimes street circuits, yes, it's spectacular to watch, but it doesn't do right to what these machines are.
I heard George Russell this week talked about the Mercedes being on rails. That's what every F1 driver wants, when your car feels like it's on rails.
Yeah. When I was in a Minardi, I had no idea what they meant, because I was going sideways everywhere. But obviously that's a dream. If you see on board that the minimum amount of steering and the car does exactly what you want, instead of
just to warn you, Rob, when you're in the back of the car and I'm getting driving lessons, you realise that we're going to be going
probably like this. You want a knob on the wheel.
Exactly. There's going to be no rails for when I'm learning how to drive. That feeling, though, George, the sweet spot. Yeah. A Formula One car on rails.
Yeah.
It's what everyone sees.
Mega. And he deserved the win, but he still has to wait for a signed contract until they know what to do with Max.
So if you're, in your opinion, Max heads to Mercedes, where does George go? Red Bull?
Aston Martin. I think he's a British,
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
George Russell and Aston Martin. 2 new teams for next year as well. We've got Audi, Cadillac. We'll get to all of that. Yeah. I've got my own ideas about how we need to kind of va-va-voom, just to jazz up qualifying.
Okay.
We'll get to that next week's edition of the podcast. In terms of the next race is Austria in a 4 weeks' time.
Yes.
The track itself, do you like it? What can we expect?
The Red Bull Ring, it's owned by Red Bull. Max has some great successes there in recent years. Orange Army is there, mega Dutch support. It's a fun track for spectators in particular, because you can see everything. From a driver point of view, it's fast. It's one of the fastest in lap time, around, I think it's 64 seconds or something in there around. Overtaking, turn 3 is the most exciting one. So it's a long straight, DRS overtakes. There's always something happening. We have seen some crazy races there with teammates, also McLaren teammates back then, Hakkinen and Coulthard hitting each other into turn 3.
That's right.
Up the hill, bam! We've seen Max and Charles Leclerc hitting each other there. So yes, turn 1 and turn 2, 3 is exciting.
We need more overtaking. It's my biggest gripe.
But if you do something, if they push harder on the tires, look at what happened yesterday when the medium fell off and the hard compound was still alive. You see what happened? The shuffle and the wheel-to-wheel banging, and that's sometimes what you miss in F1.
Yeah, you've said it. Get Bridgestone
something to wish for.
back.
Yeah.
Get the old tyres back in. Right, Robert, you're a busy boy. You're enjoying life away from the track. You're still involved. I mean, for goodness sake, you're walking around with Red Bull 2021 steering wheels.
Yeah.
It's not a bad life.
No, it's £50,000.
No.
Really?
50,000
So
quid.
I leave it a bit more to my side.
I'm Scottish. That's coming my way. Right, for those of you tuning into the podcast for the first time, available on all your podcast platforms, it is the Pit Talk, powered by Ethara. Big shout out to the team down there. Of course, organisers of the season-ending Formula One Etihad Airways Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We're going to be down there.
All roads lead to Abu Dhabi.
That's the
Every couple of years, 4 to 5 years, there's a big championship final in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, 2021 was the last time we had it. I think it will happen also this year.
You think it goes down to the wire?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
So we're gonna have a big podcast there.
Please, yeah, we're gonna have a big podcast. We are available every Monday post race. We said it in the build up to the podcast. If the pit walk is a tradition pre-race, then we want you guys to make the Pit Talk, powered by Ethara, your essential viewing or listening on a Monday after the podcast. He's Robert Doornbos. I'm Chris McHardy. Robert, thank you so much.
You need a ride home?
I do need a ride home. Save me.
Bring a helmet.
That Uber money. I'll bring the helmet. And big names are plenty. Plenty of analysis, plenty of debate.
We're going to take you in the cockpit, behind the scenes. I want to educate everybody about that one.
And you've got plenty of stories as well.
Many more.
You want to stick around for this pod. He's on strict instructions not to swear.
No.
But other than that, the stories are going to come thick and fast as well.
Looking forward
to it. Right, that is the Pit Talk, powered by Ethara. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow us, as I say, across all podcast platforms. We're available on YouTube as well. It is the Pit Talk. It's powered by Ethara. Thank you so much. We look forward to your company next time.